So we're starting a series called Deeper. And this is a series of talks we're going to do for the next 8 weeks that basically take us deeper into what a lifestyle of following Jesus looks like. We've done a great series called Water from the Rock, where we've spoken to things in our life that have been unbreakable, believing that God is an unstoppable force that breaks an immovable object. And we felt as a leadership team it would be great to explore those key things as followers of Jesus, of how we go deeper in our faith. As we are well into 2024 now, what are the things we need to stay close to Jesus, to live like Jesus, to follow him, be changed, and do what he did. Now, imagine in that story in Numbers where the rock was broken and the water flowed out. It came out abundantly, the scriptures say. Imagine where there was desert, there were streams that became rivers, and pools that became ponds, and suddenly where there was a wasteland, there was things you could swim in. There was things you could bathe in, and this is the kingdom of God we live in. It is a kingdom filled with oases that we are to swim. Why snorkel when you can scuba? Am I right? Anybody scared of scubaing? Yeah, me too. No, I'm pretty scared of that. But why snorkel when you can scuba? So we're going to start today looking at a topic called surrender. Surrender. And I would love you to turn to the Bible with me to the book of Luke. So why don't we take a moment now? Why don't you open up your Bibles to the book of Luke? Whether it's on your phone or you've got a physical copy. It's the book of Luke, chapter 22. Luke chapter 22, verses 39 it is. And if you haven't chosen to open a Bible or you haven't got access to one, it is going to be on screen for you as well. So the book of Luke, chapter 22, and we're going to start at verse 39. And this is just before Jesus is arrested and goes through the various trials that he goes through before his crucifixion and then his ultimate resurrection. So this is the moment just before. So let's read this together, shall we? And he came to the place. And then he came out, and this is Jesus, so it says he. He came out and went, as was his custom, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. And when he came to the place, he said to them, pray. This is said to them, which is his 11 disciples that were there. And when he came to that place, he said to the 11 disciples, pray that you may not enter into temptation. And he withdrew from them about a stone's throw and knelt down and prayed, saying, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, much like the angel that you saw in the game show, wearing a brunette wig. Not Emmanuel, the other one. An angel appeared from heaven, strengthening him. And being in agony, he prayed more earnestly, and his sweat became like great drops of blood falling to the ground. And he rose. When he rose from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping for sorrow. And he said to them, why are you sleeping? Rise and pray that you may not enter into temptation. And while he was still speaking, there came a crowd, and the man called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He drew near to Jesus to kiss him, and he betrayed him. I want to talk to you today about surrender. Jesus in this story was surrendering to God's will. He was surrendering to his will. He said, look, if it's not your will, thank goodness. But if it is, nevertheless, I'll do it. I will take the punishment for the sins of the world on my shoulders. I will die on a cross. I will rise again. I will finish this mission. He is surrendering. And I think usually when we talk about surrender, we normally think about what probably I thought and you thought, which was like you're on a battlefield and the enemy is winning and you're losing, and then there's this moment where someone with a white flag comes out and goes, please, sir, we surrender, sir. Don't kill us, poor peasants, sir. Usually, if it's an English film. And so he's waving the white flag, right? We all seen that, and we see it in horrific wars all around the world. What do I mean? Why is it white? Well, one of the earliest recorded times that a white flag is flown in terms of surrender and giving up is in the Roman times, and it was the color of a house, a royal house in that respect, and so they waved the color of the house. And then in the 100 Years' War, which is where the British and the French went to war for 100 years, wish they could have just sat around a table and talked it through, but there we go. This was commonly used, and it became something because it's a symbol of innocence. It's a symbol of purity, like pure intent. Like I am waving the white flag. I'm not telling a lie. I'm clean. I'm innocent. I want to give up. This is not what Jesus was doing when he surrendered to God's will. He didn't sit down and wave the white flag and say, I give up. Because if anything, he wasn't giving up. It was like he was about to go and die and rise again. So it was like giving down. I don't know. It's like whatever the opposite of giving up is. He was like doing the opposite of that. He wasn't just saying, I give up. That's it. You've backed me in a corner. It was a different type of surrendering. And that's what I wanted to explain to you today. That when we surrender to God, we are not giving up. We are giving two things. We are giving in and we are giving over. And if you and I give in to God's will and give ourselves over to his work, we will find ourselves going deeper. We will find ourselves with giving in. Giving in. Jesus was giving in. What was he giving into, right? It's not like you and me where it's 9 o'clock at night and we said we were going to eat healthy that day and we give in at 9 p.m. and have a Mars bar watching Strictly Come Dancing, right? There's a totally different level Jesus is operating at here. Jesus was giving into God's will. He says, if it's not your will, nevertheless, I'll do it. Nevertheless, that is the hallmark of people truly set on fire for Jesus. That sit before God in a quiet place and go, if it's your will, I'll do it. If it's your will, nevertheless the issue, nevertheless the problem, I will do it anyway. There is a calling on us as way to be a nevertheless. We've got to be people who constantly give in to his will. Who say, I'm giving in to you. I am all in. Because that's the opposite of giving up, right? Jesus wasn't giving up, he was giving in. He was saying, God, it's your will, and I'm going to give in to that. I'm not going to give in to my fear. I'm not going to give in to how I just want to run away. I'm not going to give in to my insecurity. I'm not going to give in to my anger towards Judas who's just betrayed me. I'm going to give in to you. I'm going to give in to you, Lord, because it's your will. It's your kingdom come and your will be done. Earth as it is in heaven. He gave in. And then what happened is Jesus gave over. He gave over. What did he do? He got up. He got up and decided to do the work. That's right, people. We have got to work for it. We've got to work for the vision that God's given us. We've got to work to see salvation reach our friends and our homes. We've got to work to see a new Garden of Eden flourish in the heart of our town and wherever you are. We've got to give ourselves over to the work. We've got to give in to his will, and we've got to give over to his work, the things that he has asked us to do, even if it looks painful, even if it looks challenging, even if it is difficult to move forward on. The best example I could give of surrendering is actually a wedding ceremony, a marriage, right? And if you've been married, if you've been through a wedding ceremony, or even if you've seen it, it's one of the most beautiful moments in your lifetime. To watch two people surrendering to one another is just stunning. And that's why we've got to see marriage the right way, that this is a beautiful thing, a covenantal thing. It's not transactional. It's not about convenience. It's about one life giving over to another life. Like if you stand at an altar and you're like, right, I give up. She's bugged me for 6 long years. And now I'm here at the altar. I give up. How many people know that's not the best way to start a married relationship? Do you know what I mean? If anybody needs help, right, in rescuing, blink 3 times. Let's rescue now. When you're at a ceremony, you're not giving up. You're actually giving in, and you're giving over. When you're stood across from that person, you're saying, I give in to the will of this marriage. You've got to be more intimate with them. And not only that, but you're giving over to the work of a marriage. Is anybody married in here? Does anybody hate? No, I'm joking. Does anybody think it's hard work sometimes? Being in such a close relationship where you love the person so much, sometimes you hate how much you love them. Because it's sacrifice. And it's obedience, and it's submission to one another. It is giving over to the work. It is taking the bins out. It is being kind. It is saving for a pension that you're going to share. It is everything and anything. We are giving ourselves, giving in and giving over to one another. And that's why it is an example of Christ in the church. Because he gave himself in, and he gave himself over for us. So how do you surrender? That's the question, right? How do you surrender? Well, it's really, really simple. The way I've phrased it is in 3 A's, because I talk for a living, so it's always helpful to remember the 3 points. So if you're wondering, how do I surrender to God? How do I give in to God? And how do I give over to his work in my life? Well, the first thing is you've got to accept reality. Number 1 is accept. You've got to just accept what's going on in your life. You've got to accept this is where you are. You've got to accept. And you know, it's not all negative. You know, I understand dying on a cross isn't the most joyful thing you want to do on a Tuesday afternoon. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes we need to accept the opportunity before us. Sometimes it's a good thing. Sometimes we see something and we're like, wow, I know this is going to be hard, but it's actually incredibly exciting. I'm going to surrender to God by being obedient to him. We've got to accept things. Me and my wife, Han, we went to Australia, and we had the privilege of swimming in the Great Barrier Reef, right? Anybody swam in the Great Barrier Reef, or just the Great Canal of Wigan? No, just that one? Okay. Well, we went to the Great Barrier Reef, and when we got out there was this tour thing where they take you to 2 different spots, right? So the first time we went, Han can swim, right? She's a great swimmer. She's got a confidence issue. So she was like, right, put a wetsuit on me, put a flotation device. I think they really liked her on this boat because they put a little rubber ring around her and they tied it to one of the guards. And the guards were swimming while pulling her. And she was just like this. It's great, isn't it? Just floating on top. But you can't really see anything at the top because it's an ocean. Do you know what I mean? It's quite deep. So then when we moved on to the next spot, she got brave and she was like, do you know what? I'm just going to accept the fact that I'm in an ocean and that the sharks around me, but greater is he that is in me. No, she didn't go all preachy. She was just like decided to be confident. Anyway, so she got off the boat, no wetsuit, nothing. And me and her were swimming down to the bottom. We're seeing the different corals. Said hi to Nemo. Blue Nemo. We were swimming around. It was awesome. We saw a turtle, guys. We saw a turtle. The only turtle I'd ever saw was a Pokemon at that time, and I was excited. It was like, look, there's a turtle. They exist. I've seen it just like David Attenborough did. And it was lovely. It was great. And that's the thing of living deeper, right? That sometimes we have to let go of those flotation devices. Sometimes we have to accept that this is a big, wide world with lots of things in it, but it's okay. I'm going to swim. I'm going to dive. I'm going to surrender to this. And in that, we find the most beautiful of moments. The first thing is we've just got to accept reality. The second thing we need to do is we've got to arm ourselves We've got to arm ourselves. If you notice what happened when Jesus gave in to God's will, to the Father's will, he said an angel came and ministered to him. An actual physical angel, guys, came and ministered to Jesus. What the Father was doing, he was arming his Son. The only thing you need right now, son, is to just be with me, be blessed by me. And so that's what he did. He sent his angels and he ministered to Jesus. And for us, we've got to arm up. We've got to do the things that equip us for surrendering for doing his work. And this is how I saw it, right? So I saw some people in here today who've walked in waving a white flag or with a white flag in the back of the pocket. And this is what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's different now, that when you arm yourself, you take off the white flag and you wear it on your arm, wearing his colors, where I've been washed white as snow, where I belong under a new captain of the Lord's army, and I'm deciding I'm going to wear this thing. I'm going to arm myself. I'm covered by his presence. I'm covered by the courage of God. And you know what? We take off the thing, and then we pick up the stick, and then we beat the living daylights out of the thing that's in our way. Whether it's the fear, whether it's the anxiousness, whether it's the depression, whether it's the issue. Mate, guys, I feel like a Jedi. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah. Because the vision of the church in our life is just a bunch of wet people who sit on the floor crying, waving a flag going, I give up. Well, I don't give up. I don't give up. I surrender to him. And that means I stand up and I fight for my generation. And I fight for my children. And I fight for my future. Because that's what Jesus did. That's what surrendering means. It means giving in to him and then giving over to the work. So come on, arm yourselves. Fight for what's God's. Fight for what's yours. And in that pursuit, you will live a deeper life. I wish my kids could see me like this. Do you know what I mean? I get a bit more respect. Do you know what I mean? Whew. I'm joking, don't worry. We're going to accept. We're going to arm. And finally, we've got to act. We've got to act. At the end of this little section, he said Jesus rose. Jesus got up. He got up. He stood up. He stopped, basically. Can I tell you one of the best parties I've ever been to? I mean, I do like parties. I love seeing people. It's great. And it's quite a small party, actually. And I don't know if you've been to one of these before. And it's cool because you don't have to bring any food. And I love eating other people's food. I'm not a great cook, so I just bring Mr. Kipling's to parties. Do you know what I mean? It's not good, but I don't know if you've ever been, but the best party I've ever been to is something called a pity party. Man, it is the best party in the world, right? Number one, you like everybody at this party, right? That's fantastic, right? The second thing is, they all agree with how you're feeling right now. It's just a slagging match. You're just criticizing people. You're having a go. You're triggering yourself. You're gaslighting. It's just weird. And the third thing is, you can leave at any point. You know, some parties you have to stay till the end. You know what I mean? But this one, you can just go when you want. This pity party is essentially what the disciples are doing right now. Jesus is off on his own, praying and surrendering to God, and the disciples are sat under the trees. What are they doing? They are sleeping. And not only that, he says, they are sleeping for sorrow. That's what the writer, Luke describes it as. They were sorrowful sleeping. They were pitying themselves. This, guys, this is often where the enemy's final stand is. If he can convince you that you've got it worse than everybody else and the whole world should stop and recognize the pain you're going through, your life shrinks to the point where you become the sun and everybody has to orbit, and then you wonder why you never get invited to parties but only pity parties. We wonder why we feel so lonely. But a deeper living with God means that we act, that we accept what's going on, that we arm ourselves with the things that we need to arm ourselves with, and we act. We get up. Friend, get up. I get it. Your life can be harder than mine sometimes. I do get it, but mate, get up. No one is coming to the rescue right now. You've got to act. You've got to move. You've got to go. And the good thing is, great is his faithfulness. That with every step you take, he walks with you. With every issue that you face, he stands with you, friend. Act. Or else it's not really surrendering. It's just giving up. It's just throwing in the towel. It's just saying, I give up. I'm done. When we know that true surrender is giving into his will and giving over to his work. Accept and act. The final thing I wanted to say was surrendering happens in the secret place. Surrendering happens in the secret place. The disciples were sorrowful, sleeping. Jesus was surrendering in secret. No one was around. No one heard him. No one saw him. In fact, for Luke to even write this, Jesus must have told one of the disciples or all of them what he was doing at this time. It was just him and his heavenly Father in a secret place. And this is where the most profound surrendering happens.